Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So let me share my screen here and bring up the PowerPoint. Death by PowerPoint. No, not really. Uh, so welcome everyone to the ARRL ham radio license course. This is for level 1. This is the first entry license, and we'll be using the fourth edition of the licensing manual. If anybody has any questions or anything, I'm going to try to keep an eye on the participants in the chat. So there's a raise your hand, and um, that'll show up in my participants window, and you can also put something in the chat if you have a question. So let me get this going. Click. So again, here's the manual that we're using, the fourth edition, and we'll just jump right in. Um, so welcome to Amateur Radio, and I'll do some quick introductions. I'm going to be pausing here because I need to move my screen around. I'm going to be the primary instructor. I do have some other instructors that might jump in from Daniel Stevens' training crew, and even Daniel Stevens might be showing up later in the next couple of sessions. He's got some stuff that he wanted to show also. And I'd like to go ahead and do some introductions. So let's go around, and I'll just go off the participants list. So state your name and tell us a little bit about yourself. Go ahead and unmute, and let's start with Bill Herb.
Hi, everybody. Bill Herb. I live in West Seattle, down on Beach Drive. I'm retired military, Army engineer, and retired from the Boeing Company. I've been retired about 5 years. My interest in this is having worked with emergency services in various parts of my career. I've been primarily a user, designer in terms of operational design, but do not have the technical understanding of how the radios or the equipment works. So I thought that'd be a good opportunity for me to tap in and have a little fun. Primary interest is emergency services and just general knowledge.
Cool. Thanks, Bill. Next up, Don Fisk.
Well, I live about a mile down the street from Robin. Found out about your club through him, but also Steve Fiala, whom I used to work with, was part of the Mike and Key Club. And so that's how I first started to get interested. I retired in 2019 from a company in Renton, Northwest Handling Systems, forklift company. I did parts and variety of stuff, customer calling, and 42 years worth of forklift related items. And so I look forward to getting the technician license. I'm looking forward to, I think, kind of the social part of it, but also I'm looking forward to maybe getting into the emergency type stuff.
Cool. All righty. Next up, let's go with George and Elaine.
Okay, I'll go first. George McLaren. I'm here in South Florida, really Fort Lauderdale. I'm a retired IT manager. I was always interested in doing ham radios or some sort of radio. My interest peaked when my brother-in-law, you probably know him, I don't remember what his call sign is, Robert Adams.
Oh, yeah.
Bob?
Okay.
Rob, yes.
Yeah, he said there was a whole bunch of people in Florida that he was going to let loose.
And there is, but I'm very, very interested. And my wife here, Elaine, decided she wants to be in it also.
Cool.
Yeah, okay. My name's Elaine McLaren. I live here with him in South Florida. I currently work for a reputable bank. I've been in banking for over 20 years. I know nothing at all about ham radio, and I know that my brother-in-law, Rob, has been trying to get me interested for quite some time now. But I decided that I was going to, be a partner in crime with him and just, come along for the ride and learn.
Oh, that's cool. I'm glad to have you both. That'll be a lot of fun.
Thank
I wish
you.
I could get my wife interested, but she says, no, I just gonna use my Facebook instead. All righty. Next, let's go with Katie.
Hi, I'm Katie Sultani Wright. I'm in West Seattle as well. My husband is N7JWW and does a lot in with the West Seattle Club and ACS and emergency response. And so because he's so involved, I got interested. So now I'm pursuing my license, so it's something that we can do together.
That's cool. Yeah. Well, glad to have you on board.
Thanks.
Let's next go to Massimo.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so hi everyone. So I'm Massimo. I'm a software engineer. I'm still working, and I got interested in ham radio because a friend recently handed me down a couple handheld radios that he was using for paragliding. So now I got these two hand radios, and I was also discovering that I can like use them potentially to communicate when I'm off grid hiking. I was looking into AMRS, and yeah, it seems like pretty interesting and like a kind of an extension of the work I do with like software and stuff. So I'm like pretty interested.
Cool. Well, glad to have you on board.
Thanks.
Okay, let's see. Let's go next to Miko.
Hi there, I'm Miko. My husband got me into it. He got his license probably about 6 to 8 months ago, and he's been pushing me to get it. And now it's a good time for him to take care of the 3 kids while I take a class and extend my knowledge. And we're hoping to eventually be able to use it for some of our adventures. Again, probably hiking and boating and stuff like that. So
Cool.
yeah.
Glad to have you on board. Okay, let's see who's next. Let's go with Nikolai.
Hi, everyone. My name's Nikolai Shepard, and I'm in the Seattle area. I work at Avalara, and I'm in sales development. What piqued my interest was my father, N7LYE. He's very big on in this space, and my whole family's very into him. He got my mom interested in my brother. So I guess he's passing the torch off to me. It's probably a little bit later than you would hope for. And then some other reasons to get it is would like to go solo backpacking. So when I'm out, being able to communicate, if there's any reason to communicate, would be really nice.
Yeah,
and
that's
to do some volunteer stuff.
cool. Glad to have you on board. Yeah, I was happy to see your name connected because I know your dad from the Seattle ACS too. So cool. Nice connections here from all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next on the list, let's go with Robin.
Well, good evening, everybody. This is kind of unusual, but I'm jumping in here because I need to review. I'm 4 decades of rust on my novice and general license from the early 60s, and a lot has changed since then. And I was out of amateur radio for almost 4 decades. Got back in the last 10 years, but I really haven't come into the digital age or any other age other than I'm getting a little bit older. So when I found out that Jim was going to be doing this review for this class, I thought, gee, he's a great teacher. It'll be a lot of fun and I'll pick up a lot of new knowledge. You can, I guess, hopefully teach old dogs new tricks. So looking forward to it.
Thanks, Robin. And by the way, just to let everybody know, this is actually my first round of trying to be an instructor. I thought, I got into ham radio in '79 and worked through the novice and technician, and then family came along and all of that, and so I'm just now getting back into it again now that the kids are out. So I'll tell you a little bit more in a little bit later. Let's finish the list here. We got Tony and Catherine Hardy.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm Tony. Catherine, KG7DYG. Kind of, you've got your license.
Roped him into it.
Yeah. I'm a software development manager, and it keeps me busy a lot. But I think after seeing Catherine do this a lot, it'd be good to kind of see what it's all about and get involved as well.
And Catherine, you're in ACS, right?
Correct. Yes, I'm Central West with Mark, actually.
Yeah. Okay. All righty. Well, glad to have you guys on board. Let's see. I've got Whit is the last on my list. Whit.
Hello. Hi, I'm Whit. I live in West Seattle. My parents said if I do this, because everybody else in my family's ham radio operators, that they'd help me contribute some of the money for me building my PC, so.
Whit, is there any chance I can have you share a video? Are you able to do that? Just so people can see you?
Hello.
Hello. Thanks.
Hey, Whit.
Hello.
And Whit, have you done your merit badge for the radio, or you're going to use this to get your merit badge?
Yeah, I did it at the beginning of the summer because my dad made me.
Oh, well, welcome on board. Thanks for joining us. So that's, I think I got everybody. Did I? Yeah, it looks like we bubbled back up. So a little bit about myself. Again, I started in Colorado, and my dad is into electronics, and he had a friend that was an amateur radio person, and I got really interested in it. So when I was in high school, we did the novice class and got going. Back then, you had to learn Morse code, and I was only able to get up to the 5 words a minute, and then I kind of fizzled out, and then I lived in Mexico City for a year and came back to Colorado for a bit, got married and had kids, and poof went all of the radio money. So I didn't have any radio money for a while, and then finally moved out to Seattle in '87 and married Pising. That's my second marriage, and had a couple more boys and got interested in my ham radio again. And so I took classes with Daniel Stevens and found out that the Mike and Key Amateur Radio Club was the closest to my house. I lived at the south end of Beacon Hill, and they're just over in the Renton area. Started going there, and with Daniel's help, I got my general and my extra class. But I ended up studying the questions and trying to memorize questions. And then now that I've got it, then I said, now what? I passed the test. Now what do I do? Well, I got to go grab all of the manuals and actually read what I'm supposed to know. And so they say, what better way to understand something than to try to teach it? So that's what I'm going to do here, and hopefully together we'll get all of this stuff going and get everybody's licensed. So a few more things here. So expectations, I'm going to try to keep the classes starting and ending on time, and I'll do my best to be prepared. I'm going to move this stuff so I can see what's on the screen. Okay. And what I'd ask everybody to do is please read the assignments for this first time or first class. Hopefully you were able to read sections 1 and 2 and review the videos. If you haven't, try to do that, because we'll cover the material. This slide deck is really good. It's one of the better ones that they have up on the ARRL website, and so I've just pulled it down and I'm going to use it. And again, ham radio is not a spectator sport. Once you get your license, it's good to get out on the air, and there'll be plenty of opportunities to do that as soon as we finish the licensing class. There's every year in the summertime, there's the oh, now my mind's skipped a beat. Robin, what's the name of the thing again up in Morristone Island that we go to? Oh my gosh.
Oh, Fort Flagler.
Fort Flagler. Yeah, so there's a Fort Flagler event that we go up there and practice all of our radio equipment, and we're on the air for field day, and that's a big popular event that everybody likes to get out and practice with your radio. So it's a lot of fun. And before COVID, there was a lot of sporting events and parades and things that you could get involved in. And I know there's some people here with the emergency management, and we have also exercises and things like that. And I know that those of you down in Florida, you have your hurricane watches and things like that. So there's lots of stuff that you can utilize your licensing in. So welcome to ham radio, and we'll do a quick course overview. We'll be reviewing, get rid of this here, radio and signal fundamentals, electricity components and circuits, propagation, antennas and feed lines, amateur radio equipment, communicating with other hams. I really need to have dual screens here, but I'm running off my laptop, so I got to keep moving things. Licensing regulations. These are all sections in the book that we're going to be covering. Operating regulations and safety. So let's get started. Not going to read every one of these. I'll put them up, and if something snaps, I'll read them out. So the amateur radio is ham radio is a personal radio service authorized by the FCC, and it's there to encourage the advancement of the art and science of radio, and to promote development of emergency communication, capacity and assist communities where needed, to develop trained operators, promote international goodwill, and through you can be an ambassador for your community and your country. Ham radio is governed by Part 97 of the FCC rules and regulations. Anyone can be a ham radio operator. There's no age limit. There's people from age 6 to 100, and got that from the book. And I remember there was some YouTube videos of a guy that was 102 years old, and he is still an active ham radio person. One thing the ham radios cannot do, they cannot accept payment for any type of operating of the radio, or whether it's money or goods or services. What do hams do? They communicate, experiment, build, compete, and serve their communities. And what we're doing tonight, engaging in lifelong learning. What makes ham radio different? There's several different unlicensed radio services. Some of them that you've probably heard of is CB radios. And then there's FRS, or Family Radio Service, GMRS. Those are the little walkie-talkies that you can pick up at Walmart or things like that that you don't need licenses. Amateur radio is very flexible. There's fewer restrictions. You're able to use more power, more frequency channels or bands, and there's more ways to communicate. And it's free to operate your radio. But with more privileges comes more responsibilities. Ham radios are much more capable and have the potential of interfering with other radio services. They also have unlimited reach. They can easily reach around the globe and into space. So FCC authorization is required to ensure operators are qualified to safely, legally, and appropriately utilize the radios. So our steps to obtaining the license: the study manual and the ham radio license, like this one. Make sure you got the current one, and we should all have the 4th edition. And it is, you could see that it's valid until June 30th of 2022. So this is the one that has the correct question pools that we're going to be reviewing. And you can go to these websites, and this is also listed in the book, where to go to practice, get practice exams, and we'll pull a couple of those up. The actual test is 35 questions that come out of a test pool of questions. And you need to answer at least 26 of those 35 correctly. So that is the end of Module 1. That's the introduction. Any questions on that first part? Go ahead and unmute and speak up if you have any questions. If not, I will grab the second part.
I have a quick question, and maybe
Sure.
the answer to this, but I have the 3rd edition of the book, and I realize the questions are probably different. Do you have a sense for how much of the content is different?
I actually, let's see. So I do have a really crazy, what's the dates on that book? 2014?
Through June 30, 2018.
Yeah, so let me share the screen. There are a bunch of changes. So here's the official, this is what's changed. There's a few modifieds, a few that are unchanged, a couple that are new. So
I'll get the book.
Yeah, you may want to go ahead and get the new book, because there are several new questions. T1A. Yeah, there's lots of new ones. So yeah, you would definitely want to snag the newer version.
Thanks.
Yep. Okay, any other questions? Let me pull this up. All righty, so this is section number 2. Oh, and there's additional resources up at awrl.org, and they've got a shop up there. Look in there for other books and things. So in chapter 2, we're going to go over some radio and signal fundamentals. I really need to move this over some more. Before we study the radio, we need to learn some important wave vocabulary. First thing is amplitude, and on the right you'll see a sine wave, and that's it changes phase from a positive phase, the upper part, to a negative portion, and there's you can see where you have the fundamental frequency is the one right below. It says frequency equals F, and then you can see the second harmonic, which is 2 times, and the third harmonic, which is 3 times. So we'll learn about amplitude, the frequency, and that's usually described in hertz or Hz. And we'll also learn about the period of the wave, what the fundamental is, and what the harmonics are. So electromagnetic waves are made up of electric and magnetic energy, or the fields. The electric and magnetic fields vary in the pattern of a sine wave, and they all travel at the speed of light. Moving electrons in an antenna take place of the moving magnet. A signal from a transmitter can make the electrons in an antenna move, transferring the energy from the signal to an electromagnetic waves. The same process works backwards too. So electromagnetic waves, when it encounters an antenna, make the electrons move in sync with the wave. Electromagnetic energy is then transferred from the wave to electrons. The moving electrons create a signal that can be detected by a receiver. Electromagnetic, I'm going to have to get my tongue working here. Electromagnetic waves, the electromagnetic spectrum is divided into ranges of frequencies in which electromagnetic waves behave similarly. Each range or segment has a different name. Waves within a certain range of frequencies which can be used for communications are called radio waves. And here we see a spectrum of the radio waves, and you'll see that on the left it starts at very low frequencies, which starts at 3 kilohertz. And hang on a sec, somebody just joined us. Oh, Daniel Stevens is just joining us. He is one of the primary instructor for the Mike and Key Club. Welcome, Daniel.
Welcome, thank you.
All righty. So again, here's the radio spectrum, and I muted you, Daniel, here. Okay, so here we see the radio spectrum that starts at the low end, which has audio frequencies in it, and then at low frequency and up are the different radio frequencies, and you have the AM broadcast band is here in the medium frequency range, and then you have shortwave, the older TV over the air, and then FM radio and UHF TV, and then mobile phones are up here. And then you get into microwave signals up here in the top end. Move this over. Radio spectrum. Parts of the spectrum is allocated for common purpose are called bands, such as the AM band or the CB band. Signals in these bands are usually the same for commercial purposes. Hams share the band across many signals of different types. And here we see an example of a spectrum starting at the AM band, and you'll see at 570 there's noise from a station, and then there would be another stronger station at 800, and then it shows that there's a station at Como AM 1000. And if you get on one of the sides, you'll have partial reception, but it's best when you finally get right in the dead center and then showing some other weaker signals. So a radio wave carrying information is a radio signal. Each signal operates or occupies a range of frequencies. The receivers tune in a signal by listening at the signal frequency. Wavelength. Move this over. Wavelength is the distance a radio wave travels during one cycle of a wave's electric and magnetic fields. The lambda symbol is for wavelength. A wave travels at the speed of light, which is designated with a lowercase c. Hams can refer to bands by frequency, for example, 50 megahertz, or wavelength, which is the equivalent of 6 meters. And here's a few of the questions now from the question pool. So what is the name for the distance a radio wave travels during one complete cycle? There, anybody that want to take a stab at that?
Is that a wavelength?
That is a wavelength, correct. And that is a question pool T3B01, and it's on page 2-5. How fast does a radio wave travel through free space?
Is that through the speed of light?
That's correct, at the speed of light, and that's on page 2-5. How does the wavelength of a radio wave relate to its frequency?
Well, it will be speed of light over the frequency megahertz.
The wavelength gets shorter as the frequency increases. And that's on page 205 also. What is the...
Yeah, that's Jim, let me pause on that one. Those are opposite. One gets shorter, one gets longer. So on that question, one gets shorter, one gets longer. We call that inversely proportional. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Daniel. What is the formula for converting frequency, the approximate wavelength, in meters?
Massimo, I think that's what you had said for the previous question.
Yeah, that's the form. Yeah.
So the wavelength in meters equals 300 divided by the frequency in megahertz. Yep. What property of radio waves is often used to identify the different frequency bands?
Would that be an antenna?
No.
What
Property of a radio wave that is used to identify the different frequency bands.
Is it wavelength?
You got it, the approximate wavelength. So yeah, an antenna, most of them are cut, or you try to get one that's cut to the close wave, the quarter wavelength antenna, so you get good reception on it. What are the frequency limits of the VHF spectrum? It's in the book, even I have to remember that. Anybody remember VHF? And
I think that was 30 megahertz to 300 megahertz.
that is
Correct.
Yep. And that's on page 2-4. And how about the frequency limits of the UHF spectrum?
Is that 300 to 3000 megahertz?
300,
megahertz,
yeah,
yeah.
Yep, 300 to 3000 megahertz. What frequency range is referred to as HF, or high frequency?
That's the shortwave radios. The where's my chart?
Page
3 megahertz
2-4.
to 30 megahertz.
Yep. What is the approximate velocity of a radio wave as it travels through free space? Massimo mentioned it before.
Yeah, so this is 300 million meters per second.
Yep. Page 2-5. What is a unit of frequency?
That hurts.
That hurts. Yes, it hurts.
It used to be cycles in the old days.
Yeah, cycles per second, but yeah. What does the abbreviation RF refer to?
Is it radio frequency?
Yep. Radio frequency signals of all type. Which of the following is equal to 50 milliwatts?
You mean 500?
Or 500 milliwatts. So this is going into the prefixes. So now we're going to be doing some prefix work. So 500 milliwatts is equal to 0.5 watts. Which of the following frequencies is equal to 28,400 kilohertz? What would be the equivalent to that? What's the next step up from kilohertz?
the 28.4 megahertz.
Correct. What is the proper abbreviation for megahertz?
MHZ.
Yeah, capital MHZ. That's on 2.3. And that's the end of module number 2 from the ARRL course. So is there...
Jim, Jim, this is
Yeah.
Daniel.
Yeah.
We need to go back to that 28,400 kilohertz question, because if you get that question on your test, you're going to have another answer that is 28.4, and it's going to say kilohertz. So be careful that you pick the megahertz. You're leaving kilohertz, so you can't pick kilohertz as 28.4. You have to go to the megahertz. That's one that we call one of the tricky questions.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
That's good. Thank you.
And Jim,
Yeah.
the other thing that's helpful for people is when you see milli, it's 1,000, so you move the decimal point two decimal points one direction. Maybe you could go back to that. I don't know if we have time to do that, but
Robin, on these things, you actually move them 3 places. You either move it up or down 3 places, and sometimes you move it 6 when it gets into millions.
Right. So it might be useful to do that on the slide. They can see it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Hang on. Let me pull this up real quick. Let me get that at a different. Let's see. See if I can pull this up. Oh, come on. These are in numbers, and the numbering system is not the same. I was going to pull this. Okay, what section am I at? I have it here. Okay, here we go. Found it. Let me share the screen again. So in the book on table 2.1, and it's on page 2.2 in the new book, here's all of the different symbols and the units. So if we start at the deca would be the 10, hecto would be 100, kilo would be 1,000, mega is 1 million, giga is billions, and tera. So the major, and the other thing they were hitting on too is watching for the capital M in megahertz versus the little m for milli, as in millivolts or milliamperes. So this is on page 2-2. And these are the questions they'll bring up on the test pool. And it's with the test pool, they'll randomly grab a certain number of questions out of each section so that you get 35. So if you study the majority of these, you'll get like maybe 1 or 2 out of them. So any other questions for tonight? We actually kind of whiz bang through that. It was shorter than I thought it was going to be. No other questions?
I have a
Daniel?
question. Oh,
Sure.
sorry. Did I
No, go ahead.
So what's your best recommendation for studying this stuff? Just keep practicing the test questions, or?
So I did send out, and hopefully you got a copy of it. If you didn't, I need to resend it to you because I was having some issues. What I did was I created a, share it again. This was the recommendation that I got out of looking at the book. I put a chapter, how many pages are in a chapter, and then I put links to the YouTube videos. And what I was suggesting was read the manual, go through all of the sections and that we're going to study, and I thought section 1 and 2, and then review the three videos that were from KE0OG to give a little bit of extra background. Because when I was doing the study stuff, I did it all on my own, and then when I moved up to Seattle and did the general and the extra, I went to Daniel Stevens' class, and it was a fill your brain very fast, drinking from the fire hose, and it was over a Saturday and a Sunday. And so since we have a lot more time with this COVID stuff, I said, well, let's try to stretch it out a little bit better and use the manual and actually read into it. And then inside there on each section they give you like what questions you're gonna find in that particular area. And the reason that I like this book is they start out at the very beginning, at the very basics, and they build it up little by little. So we'll learn the radio signals and waves, some equipment basics, and then in section 3 we'll learn electricity components and circuits. And what I want to do, the way that I'm envisioning this is it's a study group. So everybody come here, having read the material, come in, and then we can talk about, did you have any questions over the manual, what you read, or anything from the video that you don't quite understand. And then we'll go over the test questions like we did tonight and take time to, if answer any questions, or to have people like Daniel that have done the class, or Robin that's been in the radio, and I've been in the radio. We can hopefully answer the questions and help everybody out. But I thought by keeping it as a study group, and asking the questions and spending a little bit more time and not trying to get everything done in 2 days, it hopefully will help out.
Yeah, and the other thing I think you should add, Jim, is if you read a video, go across some of the book, and you have a question, write the question down, because that's what this study group is for, to answer those questions for you. If you have a question, so does some of the other students.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel.
And then I guess I have a follow-up question. Thanks for that really great answer. With the COVID thing, how does testing work now?
Just like this. What we're gonna do is I'm working with the Mike and Key testing, the VEs, and Daniel also does VE testing. But our Mike and Key group, they have actually got approval for doing virtual testing via Zoom. And to be honest with you, I haven't really set in with Scott, but he's got a document that says exactly how it goes, and they're proctoring, so they're having people that'll watch you, and I have a feeling that he says, okay, let me see around your area, that your workspace and things like that. I'm not sure how that's going to work, but there's several groups now that are doing it via Zoom or Skype or whatever. And
Jim?
yeah, go ahead. Do you know?
Yeah, what's happening is you sign up for like a half hour time slot, and you've got to take your computer and show the room, and they'll move you off into a separate room with 3 other VEs to watch you, and you share your screen. And typically you can finish the test in about 15 minutes to 25 minutes, so it should be time to finish the test. Then they grade it and give you the results right away. But it is an online Zoom, and there is a $15 fee for the ARL VEC on that. Our testing will probably be in about 6 weeks or so. At that time, if the COVID lifts and we can have meetings, I may have some test sessions for the class also. But those are 2 options we're working on, and we'll be answering that question later on in the class.
Hey, Daniel, you want to talk about what VE means?
A VE is a voluntary examiner. We are official examiners from the FCC. We are certified with a VEC. That's a volunteer examining coordinator. That's a company that's got a contract with the FCC to proctor the test. We proctor the test, then we do a direct entry into the FCC database, and you get your official license issued from the FCC. But we do all the paperwork like that to set that up. We set up the classrooms, we set up the testings and monitoring. We have to have at least 3 VEs for a test session. And that's why 3 VEs go into the Zoom room with you to watch you during the test. So that's the situation. There's 14 VECs across the nation. Some are doing the Zoom, most of them are not, but there are testing options for us right now.
Thank you, Daniel.
Any other questions? If there's no other questions, what I'm gonna suggest is let's try to get through in our next meeting. Let's try to get through section 3, which is 18. Oh, let me pull it up on the screen here. If you didn't get a copy of this, let me know and I'll re-email, because I had some email issues. Some of the messages evidently didn't get out, but you should have this technician sections.pdf that looks like this. And for next Sunday, let's try to get through section 3 and section 4. And so that will be dealing with the electricity components and circuits, a couple of videos there, and propagation antennas and feed lines. And there'll be some extra videos that Daniel and I have got for you there too. So if there's no other questions, I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording.
I have a question.
Yeah.
On your, let's see, what's it called? Technician section. It was a handout with the email.
Yeah.
You see where it says welcome to amateur radio, and then that's a hyperlink, but I'm not able to, at least the one you sent me a little bit ago before we started, the hyperlink's not working. It's just different color. So does that mean we have to go to the ARRL to get the hyperlink when we pull this up? Or can you resend it with, so it's the hyperlink is active?
Yeah, let me, so wow. Are all of yours like that or just that first one?
No, all of them are like that.
Yeah, all of them.
Oh, weird. Okay. I'm gonna have to send this out to everybody again because These have, it's a PDF and it should have the little hyperlinks for the YouTube videos. These are all of the KE0OG videos.
Mine works.
Yeah, mine works as
Yeah,
well.
mine works as well.
Okay, how many are not working besides mine?
I think it's just the amateur the YouTube videos that are hyperlinks. The other one looks like hyperlinks, but they're just references to the
That
site.
is correct.
Oh,
That is
yeah,
correct.
yeah, yeah,
Well,
Robin. That's so the
if you
welcome.
look at number 2, radio and signals, and it says for video, click here. Nothing happens. Usually you hit control and click it, or you just click it, but strange.
That is okay. Yeah, because these where I'm highlighting here,
Yeah.
these don't work, but
Correct.
these should work. That one should work, and yeah, I'll resend it to everybody and make sure that you got the. I don't know what happened, why that doesn't work.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Yeah, and all of these videos that Dave Kassler's done, he's updated to the 4th edition. He's been doing these videos on YouTube for at least 10 years, if not more. And he's been keeping them up to date. So cool. I will resend this.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Is anyone interested in doing like a group chat with like WhatsApp or Signal or something where we can talk about stuff throughout the week and for study material or anything like that?
Yeah. So the other thing I can mention is at 5:30 every night we have a Zoom. Let me find it. We have a Zoom. We call it Rag Chew, where you can get on and just talk about anything. So that's also an option. You can join the Zoom meeting that's at let me pull it up here and copy the invitation, and I'll put it in the chat window.
The other thing, Jim, is on Wednesday night they have a technical net. Mike and Key Club does.
Yeah,
and is
that's
that at 5:30 or is that at 8 or 8:30
that's actually at
or
that's
7:30
actually at 7:30 on the
Wednesday?
yeah, Wednesday on the repeater. So you'd have to listen on
But
the
there'll be
radio.
people there that are very technically minded, Miko, sorry.
I need to copy this better. Here we go. There's the link. So in the chat window,
Jim, you said you were going to resend the links or the agenda, if you will, with the links. You might want to just paste those other items into that also. That might help.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that too. So let me do one more thing. Katie, I don't have your email. Can you send an email to me? It's
Sure.
Here's my email, KE7JIM. There's my email address. Because for some reason I don't have you on my spreadsheet of names. And then I'll email everybody the new PDF and the link to the Zoom meeting. Okay, I'm gonna stop the recording and we can chat a little bit more.